It's KFM 95.9. Gollywood story this week. So excited. The last time I spoke to this young man, I'll call him young man, was as we were going through the most. Kinakoya ProKid, Kinakoya Chaba. So we were going through the most the last time I spoke to him. But today he's here to share his story, and I'm talking about Maggz. Maggz, how you doing?
I'm good.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Dude, what have you been up to? I mean, I remember when I was even chatting and pitching the idea of having you in the studio, I was like, no, guys, we need to catch up with Maggz. We need to know what he's doing, who he's doing, and everything else in between. I mean, really?
No, I've been like everybody else dealing with COVID and its consequences and stuff, So, but we've been working on music in the meantime. That's all we could do.
Yeah.
We can't perform. We can't do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So we've just been making the music, and so hopefully this year we're gonna release some. Yeah, get the people excited.
Yeah, no, you do need to get us excited because when was the last time you released a project?
2017.
Aibo, Maggz.
No, but that's like now.
It's 4 years ago. It's not now.
2020 does not count. That's a write-off.
Oh, I suppose. Okay,
it's a write-off. So it's
practically
3 years.
It's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years
and
ago.
I would have dropped last year, but
COVID happened.
And
And what are some of the things that you are working on, leading up to the release of this project that you've been working on? What else are you working on to make sure that Maggz stays
features. I got plenty of features,
Yeah.
I know I've been probably out the feature game for a little bit, but that was by choice. But now I made the choice to come back and do some stuff with some people. So I've quite a few things coming out. Some in the pipeline. One of them is dropping. Actually, it dropped yesterday.
Did it drop yesterday? Yeah.
On Friday,
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So yeah.
Oh, I need a plug. We need to get that song before.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
It's me, MT, and Ched the Don.
Okay.
Yeah. So just one of this year's flexes, and then there's more stuff in the pipeline.
Why did you decide to put brakes on the features? Did you feel like you then did not know yourself as a solo artist? What was happening?
I felt like my brand was becoming the feature guy.
Uh-huh.
So like everybody just like knew me for the features. And I was
Yeah.
like, but I have my own stuff. You guys need to concentrate on my stuff a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think that's practically the
you wanted you as a solo artist to stand about
like,
because I was talking to someone, I can't even remember who earlier, and they were like, yo guys, Maggz on real stuff, Maggz on this, Maggz on that. When Maggz is there and he's your feature, forget it. That's his song that closes. I suppose it's got its pros and cons. It's got that part where everybody will be like, no, this guy stands out. When he's a feature, he doesn't feel like an extra. And I suppose that's a good thing, right? But it also then becomes that thing that nags that Maggz is great on features, and you don't want that for a brand.
And you don't want that. You know what I mean?
Shucks,
because
man.
then it's almost like your career is dependent on other people. It's not really your drives. Like, someone has to feature you on a dope song, and it's like, no, bro, we make these dope songs.
We 100%.
We find them empty. And we fill them up.
Well, he's got a song with empty. Just say. So let's talk about then. What made your guys' era so precious? There's something very precious about the era when we went into the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and probably around 2010 or so. What made that era so super special? Because I can imagine some of your inspiration you're drawing from the late 90s as well. What made it that special?
I think it's because we were pretty much paving the way, pretty much pioneers, pretty much the people in the game at the time were pioneering something, whether it was HP, Squatter Camp, it was a beginning of something. ProKid was all a beginning of something. And hip-hop at the time was not recognized or respected.
Quite there was blacksmithing,
you know what I mean? Mohammed Stratin, but it's Snoop Doggy Dogg, Tupac. You know what I mean? That's where we were at the time, The country was not open yet, you know what I mean? So that's why even at the time, we were all rapping like in English, and we decided, man, let's bring it back home so that people can understand that this music thing, we're not faking it. This is who we are, And once we brought it more home, then the people started receiving it well, and we're like, okay, cool, then this is the path we should follow. And then the game opened up, Then everyone else was sitting at home. You'll hear rappers now today be like, yo, man, I never thought hip-hop would be anything, but seeing you guys, and you know, seeing your growth and everything inspired me. I'm a rapper today because of it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, man, that's dope. That's love. It's dope to know you inspired someone, just like I was inspired. You know?
Was the big hurdle or the big battle with hip hop the language per se, or was it even stories you were telling through the music? Because I felt like when Kasi rap came into play, people, and I'll say people because of black people, so black people started relating it to a bit more because of the Kasi stories that were being told. I mean, I remember, I think it's Ghetto Scandalous, Zola. And he featured Amu there, and that was a diss track for the entire hip hop community. That was literally a diss track for the entire hip hop community, because there was this thing that you're calling people the N word. Kokasi, listen, I will 100%. You know what I mean? So what was the actual hurdle about? Because there are people that sing R&B right now that sing in English, and there's great reception, and they are black.
Yeah, that's because like you know, when you move the needle, like the needle had to be moved for like English to be received so well now.
Okay.
So like Nasty C's thriving, all these Aries and them thriving because English is so well received. In the beginning, it wasn't. So because it was a relatability issue. You know, people when they saw us, they saw, you know, the baggy clothes, and they seeing Biggie and them on TV, and then they see us, so they think we are copying what they're doing. We're not doing something South African.
Okay.
That's why we had to also look at ourselves as a hip-hop fraternity and say, okay, we need to bring this closer to the people.
How do we bridge the gap?
How do we bring this closer to the people? Let's tell our stories now. We tell our stories, but not in English. Let's try and, you know, bring them vernac so that, you know, my neighbor who can be like, who knows I'm a musician, can be like, yo, beng mabelingo mayakizol, and not feel like he's so far removed from me because I rap in English. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just think, the game needed like, you know, sort of like, you know, creative minds that were pushing the barriers, you know. That's why, like, sometimes it irks me when I see people disrespect legends. And I'm like, do you know, like, if it wasn't for Double HP paving the way, you wouldn't have had this guy who you were probably the fan of. You know what I mean? Like, you need to respect what these guys did, because they did it against the tide. The tide was going this way. They were flowing upstream. For sure. You know what I mean? Until the, you know, it broke. And the sun came through. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, but when you look, I mean, that era is interesting, obviously, because like you say, it was a pioneering era. Yeah. What would you think were the great, I don't want to say failures, but definitely letdowns, whether it's from a fan's perspective or even the musicians themselves perspective? Because every era has got an irritation, you know, where you're like, oh, did Nasty C just do that? You know, there's something that bothers you. And even at that time, and it was worse because hip hop was so foreign to us South Africans, there must have been things that you were like, we could have done that better. Definitely. And maybe it would have set us apart from other people or even other musicians that were thriving at that time.
True story. I mean, one of the biggest problems we had in the beginning, we didn't have corporate backing per se. You know, there was no corporations or coming to us and say, yo, here's a brand, advertise this, or here's this, let's do this, let's work. You know, there was none of that. Everything was going to certain genres. Hip-hop was being ignored. But I guess it's also like a numbers game. We also had to do the legwork and get our numbers up. And plus another irritation of that era is that I grew up loving like Kwaito, house, all this other music, and you find that they had a problem with hip-hop, and they'll be like, I'm a Koporosha, all these songs, and you're like, yo, we're just trying to exist in the same space. We're not trying to take over. We just want to exist in the same space.
There's enough space.
Exactly. The stage is one, but there's hours of it exposed. You know, we can just have our 15 minutes, our 30, and we out. You know what I mean? So I guess the biggest problem was just trying to exist in the same space as everybody else, and we were not received well in the beginning, but you know, things changed over time. People realize that, okay, we are truly good at what we do, and we're not faking the funk, and this is truly who we are.
Would you agree with people that say, you know, brands like Lakshman Culture then also started making you guys scream out loud even more?
Exactly.
When they started buying into the movement of hip-hop,
exactly,
then all of a sudden your voice was that much more amplified.
Exactly. Now everything makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, Lakshman Culture has a home, and its home is hip-hop.
We're still hanging out with Maggz, who's telling us a Hollywood story, and also just a little thing about hip-hop and the come-up. And I'm sure that was major. I mean, everybody I talk to when it comes to hip hop, especially the ones that did hip hop right at the beginning, is that, and we touched up a bit on it, because Kwaito was so big, you guys had to be audacious. You could not come in Mickey Mousing, mediocre, because Kwaito was huge.
Yeah.
When we broke democracy, Kwaito was humongous.
It was a monster.
Yes,
It
you
was a
know,
monster.
it really was something. Would you then say, so how do you keep it alive? How do you keep going? Because I mean, late 90s inspiration, early 2000, a nice pop comes in. You know, how do you then keep it going to then 20 years later? Because, I mean, we're at 2021 now. You know, 20 years later, for you to still sound fresh, for you to still be relevant to the market, because we go through certain phases. Yeah. And all those phases need a certain treatment. How do you then make sure that you as Maggz are still relevant, whether it's a feature you pick or even a song that you pen?
For me, I think authenticity is really everything, because I think the more authentic you are to your sound, you never run out of ideas, because you are drawing inspiration from yourself. And as you grow, your music grows. As you grow, you know, your perception of situations grows. So even your writing becomes better, because now you are more well versed, you are more wiser than you were when you were younger. So I think if you're authentic and you stay true to who you are, and that always shines through. You know, it's easy to do what everyone else is doing now, like the new people doing the new sounds, and you follow that. It's easy because that's what's making it. You know, as a musician, obviously you wanna be out
you want
there
the
relevant.
guab.
So
I mean, really?
You know, it's easy to go there, but I think the artists that remained sort of impactful throughout is the artists that never compromise on who they were. You may adapt your sound, like you may add stuff, but the essence, the baseline needs to stay the same. You know, I think that's what makes you last long. The minute you follow every trend, you disappear, because you won't be as good as the guys doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you disappear.
Because that's their essence.
Yeah, they say it's whack. Oh, you're forced. Thousands of mungani. You know what I mean? Like, just rather stick to your guns.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right.
I mean, I must think that also the balancing act of the two must be a nightmare, you know, because sometimes you are not buying in. I mean, you guys had issues when trap came in. You guys, no, y'all had issues. Y'all had issues.
This is dependent on who is who. Okay, I never had no problems with trap. I love trap. I love trap music. That's why I even said to you in the beginning. Remember, I said I grew up listening to Kwaito. That's why it used to make me feel some type of way when like Kwaito used to be so against hip hop, and we were so young, like we barely have a voice, bro. Yeah. We don't need this. Yeah. Like rather we were hoping you guys would just hold our hands and take us with you. You know.
So did that make you, because of the battle or the friction that hip hop had with Kwaito in the beginning? Did that make you more open to younger cats coming in, even if they had a sound that you did not particularly understand? Because I think the worst thing about music is when you think the sound you prefer is superior, and you do not want to let other people exercise their right to have a voice and actually play with whatever sound they want, because I think that's exactly what was happening with Kwaito.
For me, I always say this: there's enough shelf space for everybody. You know what I mean? We don't all have to now fight for this one who's the dopest, who does this. No, there's enough shelf for everybody. So if you do Kwaito and you're good at it, you have shelf in my car, in my space, in my home. I'll play you, brother, 1,000 times. I'll even play your other artists who are on the come up. I'll play everybody. I've never had a problem with upcoming artists. The only time I had a problem is when they don't acknowledge how everything became to be. They think, oh, I made it because I am that good. But you have to acknowledge what came before you. That's how it is. You have to acknowledge your history, like what made it happen. You can't, okay, you are good, but what made corporations now say, hip hop, come here, sit on my lap, let's work.
KFM 95.9. Maggz, when we talk about legends and OGs, do you think there is a space, and I know the disrespect and all of that, I mean, we've spoken quite a bit about it, but do you think that they enjoy their space and understand their role? Because when you are a leader in something, there's a certain role that you play to ensure that whatever that you are protecting or whatever you are housing continues beyond you. That's the
Legacy
makeup
stuff.
of legendary stuff, right? It's legacy. Do you think that house is fully taken care of when it comes to hip hop specifically?
To be honest, I mean,
Not because people
Not-
didn't do things great, but
Yeah.
are they actively playing that role?
it's a bit of a tough question because I'm unfortunately I'm not super in terms with everybody individually on a day-to-day basis
For
of,
sure.
of what they're up to, But from my perspective, just watching as a fan of the game, I do believe, they could get more flowers than they're getting. You know what I mean? Just a
Okay.
little bit. Nobody's saying, give them.
Drop names,
You know
Maggz.
what I mean?
Let me put you on the
No,
spot.
I mean
Drop
like
names.
people like Les. I think he deserves his flowers. He's been in the game since like Josie and everybody.
Yeah.
Like you like people like that deserve their flowers. I
Yeah.
mean some of the legends are not with us anymore. But like Murafe, I
Yeah.
feel like the game also like forgot Murafe, and I'm thinking like the impact they made.
Yeah.
Mutwako,
Todi, KG, and
the whole
Kuli,
thing,
yeah.
Dukes and
Yeah.
everybody. Sometimes you want them to be still murmured about, still being shown out there. Like we have even like hip hop awards. You've never seen hip hop legend out there,
Yeah.
legendary given to a hip hop guy.
Osmic, come on.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's where we need to go,
Yeah.
so that we can really solidify the impact of the game.
Yeah.
Once we start naming legends, we start picking out an Amo, we start picking out someone who was impactful at the time. I mean, even Zola 7 was more hip hop than he was Kwaito.
I know he
to be
hates to
honest.
admit it, but he really
He
was.
was more hip hop than he was Kwaito. You know what I mean? And he's part of our representation, and we look at him like that as part of our godfathers. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think those people do deserve their flowers.
Yeah. Where to from now? I know you said that you are working on a project. You hope that you can drop soon,
Yeah.
Hopefully we can like get over this COVID situation by the end of this year,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, we are all we've all been pushed to our limits
It's been-
here.
yeah, it's been a
but
tough
yeah,
year.
it's been too long now. It's
Yeah.
been too long. But what else are we looking forward to? You dropped a single
yeah.
yesterday.
It's not my single. It's Chad featuring myself.
Yeah, and MT, yeah.
Yes, and then what I'm working also on is my boys Sari and Modi. They're
Yeah.
producers, they're singers. So they're gonna have EPs coming out as well. Sometime later this year. Moving forward, Biz Guy as well. So yeah, man, just working on the future of hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's important, by the
It's
way.
important.
Our hip hop
That-
story and element is as crucial as Jay-Z's, Tupac's,
Do you know what
Biggie.
I want to say? That's also another thing that probably killed Kwaito.
Yeah.
If we're being honest with each other, I think some of these Kwaito legends never took care of the people coming after them.
Yeah.
And that's why the game died. I think
Yeah.
if they also had artists and they were breeding other artists, that Kwaito will still be flourishing.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think, talking around that, I love the camaraderie that I'm seeing around Amapiano cats.
Yeah.
They've got each other, this side and this side. They are pushing. Because then
Yeah,
that
but-
just makes it a breeding ground for
But
other
it all
new
starts
people.
like that, yes, to be honest.
This guy!
and then
You're
one
saying
or
I'm
two.
getting too excited.
I'm just saying, it's young,
Too soon,
you know.
too soon. Okay, I get it. I'll take it. You're quite right. I
but,
take it. I take it. Well, thank you so much for coming and
No,
hanging
thank you
out,
for having
Maggz.
me. Thank you.
And we'll definitely keep our eyes on Purple Buffalo and see what it's doing, and maybe who knows, maybe
That'll be
some of
what's
your
up.
artists can come through as
They
well,
definitely will.
and have a chat with us. We must have a legend. Or OG, because I mean he might just kill me for saying that.
Young OG.
Ah,
I
young
prefer
OG,
You put the
wow,
young before my
another
OG, because there's
young
other
OG.
OGs who are more OG than me.
100%.
So young
Have
OG.
like a young OG performance here, and they must come and just rip the stage, at least not us, but rip the stage. Thank you so much for coming
thank you
through.
for having me.
We will look out for Maggz on the social. He has
I will
promised.
be there. Okay.
Thank you for hanging out, dude.
Thank you.